Welcome to the special episode of Shotgun Saturday Night! It's going to be a dawning of a new era of the world of bare knuckle boxing. A new era. The new era of professional bare knuckle boxing. And you know why? Because the professional bare knuckle boxing has been around for over hundreds and hundreds of years. And guys, before we talk about the history of the past, we might as well talk about the new era. And when I say new era, guys, I really mean the new era. Now, I have talked about this before. Bare knuckle boxing, also known as bare knuckle or bare knuckle fighting. And sometimes back in the old days, people used to fight like this while having wax on their mustache. Is a full contact combat sport based on punching without any form of padding on the hands. The sport, as it was known today, originated in the 17th century in England. And although similar, it differs from street fighting as it follows an accepted set of rules. But of course, by the 18th century, and almost to the end of the 19th century, well, the foundation of it was pretty different because it was mostly known for London prize fighting. Yeah. And of course, everything else was history. But then, guys, in the 21st century, as I said before in my last episode, and if people don't know the episode and what the series of Shotgun Saturday Night means, Shotgun Saturday Night is a series I said last week ago, guys, if you guys didn't watch the last episode, the series premiere, The New Beginning, Shotgun Saturday Night is a series that only talks about the most controversial sport out there. And it's all bare knuckle boxing. So if you guys are not a fan of bare knuckle boxing, this series is not for you. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Also, every episode will be released at 1 week on Saturday. And it could be a 20-minute or 35-minute episode. And I always like to keep those episodes short, just to make things entertaining and quick. But yet again, guys, that really doesn't mean nothing. Because the sport of bare knuckle boxing is that it is controversial. Now last week, guys, if you guys didn't watch, bare knuckle boxing has seen a resurgence in the 21st century with English promoters such as the bare knuckle boxing of BKB, the Ultimate Bare Knuckle Boxing, the UBKB, and the well-known American promotion, the Bare Knuckle Fighting Champion, BKFC, and the BYB of, well, that they only call it BYB. I don't know what the letters stand for other than they call it BYB Extreme. And I kind of like that one. Not because it's from Miami and the BKFC is from Philadelphia and the UBKB is from England, Warrington, England, and the BKB is from, shockingly, in a place called Coventry, the West Midlands of England, on the River Sherborne. If some people know where that is, well, I don't have to tell you. So, yeah. But guys, there is some things that you people might not know. Now, guys, the new era of bare knuckle boxing is so different from what it is. And guys, I'm going to show you viewers how bare knuckle boxing started. Now guys, in the 20th century, surprisingly, we could talk about the story about Muhammad Ali being friends with a guy that claims that he had over 114 wins undefeated in bare knuckle, and him and Muhammad Ali were close friends until the day Ali passed away. We could talk about that, even if those records were legit or not. And I'm not going to question the guy because, hey, I'll just call him a legend just for the heck of it. Even if he is or not undefeated, and even if the information is not there or not, well, hey, you got to do something to make the sport popularity. And we can talk about it. But guys, I think some people don't know. Now, guys, if you guys have watched the documentary of Vice, now, just to let you guys know, when I say the word Vice, I'm talking about the producers and the organizers, the people that run the series Vice, which they're actually known for the greatest documentary series they made called The Dark Side of the Ring. You know, The Dark Side of the Ring, talking about the final days of Owen Hart's death and talking about the plane ride from hell that was the end of the demise of WWF, and then they turned to WWE, or the Montreal Screwjob. You know, those people that talk about professional wrestling, the dark side of the ring. Well, before they actually created that series back in 2019, technically there was one documentary that they actually went on to create. And as I said before, guys, the YouTube channel was actually releasing one of their few popular videos titled Underground Bare Knuckle Boxing in the UK. The video was uploaded on July the 8th, 2014. It has 16,150,339 views. And once regarded, now this is what the description says, once regarded as something that happens exclusively in Guy Ritchie films and on gypsy sites, bare knuckle boxing is fast becoming a thriving scene in the UK, the ultimate British blood sport. When Clive Martin embeds with the bare knuckle boxing elite, what he discovers is not dissimilar to Fight Club. It technicians, builders, lifestyle coaches, and even a solicitor, all throwing their unprotected fists into each other's face. It's a subculture of honor, pride, and violence. As the UK prepares to play host to the first US versus UK bare knuckle title fight in 150 years, the biggest event the scene has known since it went underground in the 19th century, Clive tries to find out if violence is the cause or effect for these angry young men. End quote. So yes, the 27-minute and 21-second documentary of this video shows a guy named Clive Martin, his first name spelled C-L-I-V-E. I don't think I have to tell you what his last name stands for. So he actually goes around these areas finding these new people, and surprisingly, there is some interesting information about this that's interesting, because they show us footage of a old guy in his 50s taking on a young person fighting near an area where there's hay barrels, there's no ropes, there's no ring. And to be honest, guys, the bare knuckle, they show us a bar which has a bunch of hay barrels that are like 10 by, I think it's like, by the looks of the hay barrels, where they put the hay barrels around just to make it a 4-corner ring, is almost like 10 by 10 or an 8 by 8 corner. That's how small the ring is, if that makes sense. there's moments where they actually see a guy with an orange shirt, orange pants, taking an old person taking on a young up and coming or a young guy in his rookie days, and it ends in a draw, and how questioned that is. But then they show another guy, a guy that was undefeated, but they also now show another guy named James Gypsy Boy McCoy. Wait, what's that guy's name? Seth Jones. Yeah, Seth Jones was a guy that took on an old guy, and surprising how he even did something. But then they talk about another guy named James Lambert, a guy that was a boxer that was undefeated in bare knuckle, whether that's true or not. And when I looked up his name and typed in bare knuckle boxing on his name about who James Lambert is, it only shows videos of the documentaries of Vice, which is weird because they actually released new documentary footage this year in March. Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. And James Lambert, his Facebook page states that he is a former unbeaten bare-knuckle fighter, unlicensed boxer, martial artist, and doorman. Lovely seeing Ashley Walters being interviewed on the At Sunday Brunch. Oh, talks about his new book. Yeah, so James Lambert, there's not a lot of footage out there about what he is and knowing if he's actually, like, take this for what you will. So James Lambert is this type of person that releases out these random interesting videos that I haven't interesting. And it also shows on October the 3rd last year, it shows him pulling off a barbell. That's a real heavy barbell. Damn, that guy really knew how to squat that lift. Sheesh. So yeah, this person, considering if I can know there's any information or videos about his career, because it said that for his intro, it says that he is a male empowerment leader, of an international speaker, of an author, former unbeaten bare-knuckle fighter. Yep, unlicensed, and doorman. Yep. So, and it also stated that he wasn't happy. In the documentary, he said that he wasn't a happy person. And considering he does talk about that he wants to help yourself and try to understand what it's like, and I really don't know how to explain it the way he talks about the stuff, but even in the documentary it's really crazy. And I actually did saw one of his videos, like there was one that he released 2 years ago called, that's a 54-second video called Kindness Isn't Weak. K King, it disappoints me when I see others. Anyway, I can't find the rest of the title. Wait, is it? Find others, influences, and coaches only highlighting the weak aspect of poor boundaries and low standards and confusing this with kindness. Kindness is strong, and only the strong can truly be kind. Being kind when you can choose not to be is noble and virtuous traits, befitting the king that you are at your best, dedicated to your success. You are unstoppable, and I believe in you. And to be honest, I really do love that statement, and I do love the stuff that he did say. And looking back at it, it's a pretty helpful statement. And considering James Lambert, whether or not if he is, and depending, because like I said before, it is just goes to show you the craziness about anything. And by the way, I do love it. I like that they have this guy. By the way, guys, I try to look this information up even at the time and try to understand what I was looking for. But the first person Martin interviews is a guy named Andy Topwith, the founder of Be Bad Promotions. And it's interesting because considering they had talk about mostly about anything else, depending on the stuff that trying to bring the sport to another light, and considering whatever you say is gonna work, because even though this was back in 2014, so the odds of any of this coming to light, who knows? Because he talks about how the century was a very big sport with a royal family, and he talks about the superstars that are today, and with everything else, because he even talked about how he was brought in a traveling community with his hands that are destroyed, and considering that they're actually deformed, and they even show his hands. It just goes to show you how painful that our hands and knuckles are not as strong as you think. People have to understand that our bones in our hands are the weakest, and our head is the strongest. It's that crazy. It's crazy to punch someone in the head. It really is, because you got to understand that the level of fortitude when it comes to it, this is how crazy it is, because these people are fighting their way from competition after competition while they're putting their bones on the line. They're putting their fingers, and just make sure, guys, bare knuckle boxing puts in a more huge disparity for what it is. This documentary, considering it was released in 2014, there's not a lot of video or evidence or what unbeaten record. We don't know how many bare knuckle fights James Lambert had, and we don't even know how many we even have for any other record. And just like the world champion of Muhammad Ali's friend, when he was there at the time, let me look up his name one more time. I gotta look up. And by the way, they even have another guy that's actually from the USA, and he comes out boxing his way like never before. Thanks. Yeah, put it there. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. But yeah, where's that bare knuckle's name again? I forgot his name, but wait a minute. Give me a second, guys. I'm trying to look up the name again. Paddy Monahan. Yes, is it Paddy Monahan? Paddy Monahan. Has to be. Paddy Monahan. Yeah, it has to be right. So Paddy, oh my God, stop this. No. So Paddy Monahan, we don't know how many bare knuckle fights he's had in his career, other than the only information we can tell about who he was, considering whatever you say, and because it is tough to understand. Oh, and by the way, just to let people know, with all due respect, Paddy Monahan also passed away at the age of 73. He was 2 years older than Hulk Hogan. And like I said before, at 73 years old when he passed away, about 8 years ago on April the 9th, with his ill health, they still claim that he has an undefeated record of a champion at 114 fights, winning the world middleweight title in 1974. But the thing is, guys, back in those days in the 20th century, bare knuckle boxing was just not a major sport. After John L. Sullivan and James Kilray in 1889, which was the final legit major bare knuckle fight, until the Marquis Queensberry decided to now make it a legitimate professional sport in pro boxing with gloves that should be legal. That was it. So we don't know who was thinking about organizing these fights, and back in the old days and in the 70s and 80s and 90s, we don't know what record. The thing is, guys, the new era, the era in the 20th century of bare knuckle boxing was dead. And in 2014, the YouTube channel Vice that released this documentary, I'll be honest, guys, this 27-minute documentary played a lot of crazy things. And like I said, they even bring in another guy, like I said before, that was from America, that actually goes by the name of Jason the Machine Gun Young, the U.S. bare knuckle fighter. And I try to look him up if there's information about him and understanding if he's still out there boxing or if he was boxing the bare knuckle division of boxing today. Technically, I really couldn't find much about it, but yet again, guys, what makes this documentary so interesting, the last 11 minutes of the documentary were crazy. Because Martin comes in. He talks to James the Gypsy. And they talk about so much of the life. And they even talked about it in the first 5-minute documentary with him and showing his girlfriend or wife and how she gets a little bit scared when he comes home and sees the bloody mess all over his face. And yeah, you just think to yourself, man. They go out, they play pool, and before you know it, after they're done doing this or that, and think with everything being all pressure, and then the real moment came where he comes out. James, that doesn't really talk much in straight English, he comes in. He talks about so much about how he takes a couple steps and he fights jab moving and just trying to establish jab and such, which is almost like professional boxing. And even shadow box with the host, which is pretty fun. Move your head a bit and just, it was pretty fun. And he just, it's pretty interesting. It just goes to show you the craziness. The final 10 minutes of the documentary were surprising. And it is interesting because he even talks about so much about, like, think about everything being horrible for, they talk about him spitting out the gums, which is something surprising to talk about. And it's interesting. But what makes it interesting, because he comes out. He comes in talking about how he has great nights if he wasn't so brain damaged. And then he goes on to say, and quote, considering the host talking about memories of your family and the kind of important moments and what you, like, he just, everything he says. And what's the hardest that you know that you can remember the day that his dad passed away and such. And it's interesting. He comes out and goes every single second of it. He can't remember much. Otherwise, he could get hit by a bus and wouldn't have any memories, and he would risk everything. And there's a reason he also talks about why he has a tattoo on his back and talk about the Catholic cross and the shamrock of his dad and scared of nothing in life. And he even says, whatever happens, happens. There's a lot more better fighters than me out there. But the difference is I've got my balls to F. Like, if I say I'll jump for a fight, I'll jump for a fight. Doesn't matter where I'm going. And the stuff he says, the stuff that he said in that entire documentary was surprising. And the host did had a lot of interesting things to point that out. Thinking that James, he began to understand of the idea of a lot of us to throw it out as the kind of cliche, and looking at James, which what he thought. But when he looked at James, the way he conducts his life and how kind of a very emotional attitude towards the death of his father and the relationship. And to be honest, guys, the last 10 minutes of the documentary were pretty surprising. And then after that, the last 6 minutes, they go to a bar which has the flags of USA versus British. They come out, and we don't know if there's rounds or something. It's just one single round of punching, and that's it. They show fights, knockouts, and then they have Jason, the guy from America, ready to bang it all in. They have the title that hasn't been fought since 1863, since they had the title, which is a lot. So you can tell that this documentary was made in 2013, but released in 2014. So, but then for some reason, James was showing up late to the show. People were like, guess he's not going to be there. It seems like the American was going to go home with the victory here. And then I love that the person comes in and they said that he was on his way from Newcastle. Others said that he bottled, and it didn't sound like James. He didn't know the success of the night depending on his appearance and such. And I loved it so much. They're talking about how this or that, and how his opponent is just thinking, well, there's just a lot of excuses of fighters today. And back in the day, somebody calls somebody out, and you know if you're going to be disrespectful, and you got it. Like it just goes to show you that it was crazy. I was thinking that this was going to be a failure. And when watching the documentary and seeing the final few minutes, the host talking about, like Martin talking about how people were going to leave the exit door. And then suddenly, like an angel out of the north, he rose. James McCoy wearing a soccer jersey, like looked like a referee and overweight, and they come out and they fight and hit each other. The American came out, hurt his opponent, but then the American comes back, the Englishman comes back after he fell off a hay barrel, brings his opponent down, the winner, and they try to stomp on his head when James's coach pushes, and they hug and they fall off his opponent. I thought, oh yeah, the American's dead. But luckily nothing happened. And that's how they ended it. It was kind of crazy. It was watching the final moments of that documentary, depending on who I thought was going to win. It was a great documentary, and I kind of enjoyed it. And you know what? I did too. And that was it. They come out to talk and with the last moments, and that was it. Now, guys, I did try to look up the promotion of B-Bad Promotion, and even though this is the end of my podcast here, so B-Bad Promotion has not been seen as much, other than the documentary with the historical bare knuckle boxing, and I tried to look it up if there's any information to B-Bad Promotion, and to be honest, it seems like it hasn't reached its success more than it is. Until featuring Andy Topfi and Claire Monahan, have put together a number of BKB events, and below of, wait a minute. BKB, I think, so they are. So BKB countries. So this has to be. So it seems like they might have changed their promotions to BKB. But there isn't information that's more popular than BYB Extreme or bare knuckle boxing or even anything else. The ultimate bare knuckle boxing, I am interested to look up. So that right there, ladies and gentlemen, after that documentary was released, who knows what happened. Now, guys, was this much of a failure to talk about when releasing this footage and documentary? Technically, not really. Now, of course, the documentary had a lot of interesting moments, but I think when Vice decided to release another documentary about 4 years later on October the 8th, 2018, titled America's First Bare Knuckle Fighting Champion. That, in my mind, ladies and gentlemen, is when 2018 was the first year that bare knuckle boxing came back to the spotlight. And I apologize if anyone else that used to be a bare knuckle fighter in the 20th century is saying that at this moment, guys, if it wasn't legit at the time, then it wasn't. Because at this moment, I think 2018 was the year that bare knuckle boxing went on. And now we have this. So technically, is there going to be more controversy to bare knuckle boxing than it is? At this moment, as it's a major sport right now, and considering this is just a new series I'm making already, who knows what I'm going to talk about next week? Because next week, ladies and gentlemen, I will talk about the growth of the American world of boxing. And like I said before, guys, consider this is the new era of boxing, and I've only talked about the era that just became new since 2013, because 2013 might have been the first year that bare knuckle boxing became big. And that's all I have to say about it. So anyway, guys, hope you viewers enjoy this podcast. I know it wasn't as entertaining than you think, but next time, we'll see you on Shotgun Saturday night. See ya.